Today's Hometown University, we got three great agents, Cory Metts, Peyton Burchell, and Stoney Marshall. All three of those guys were in other companies and have come to Hometown Realty to build their businesses. A little bit of a different perspective on what Hometown is all about, and maybe some things that they have brought with us and things that are with them and things that they have learned as they've been here. We'll talk a little bit about how they built their business, how they've grown teams, and where they're looking to take their business, as well as hear a lot of questions and answers from the folks that are here in the classroom today. So hope you have a chance to tune in. So what we're going to do today, we're talking to these three guys, all sort of had been somewhere else and have come to Hometown Realty, and we'll sort of hear their stories, and we'll be able to ask some questions, not just about how they did it or why they did it or whatever, but maybe if we can get into maybe some tips on how they've been able to be so successful in the business, which I think will be helpful as well. So I thought the best thing to do would be sort of go right down the line and have these guys introduce themselves to you, and we'll talk a little bit more about maybe why you're here, but just sort of say where you grew up, how you decided to get into the real estate business, what you did before real estate, and then we'll talk a little bit more about how you actually landed at Hometown Realty in a little while. So fire away.
Do you want to start? You want me to?
You get to go.
All right. I'm Cory Metts. I have been 7 years in the business now. Grew up in Cartersville, Virginia, which probably no one knows where that is.
I know where it's at.
Yep, fair enough. And let's see, why did I get into it? I worked an accounting job when I got out of school. Absolutely did not like it. And my dad has bought and sold real estate since I was, 2-3 years old. And he told me to go get my license. So I did, and been doing it kind of ever since.
Peyton Burchell, been in real estate licensed since 2005. I was a part-time agent from 2005 to 2010, trying to build my database up. I actually was a pharmaceutical sales representative right out of college. Started in 2005, called on all the pediatricians around Richmond and Fredericksburg until I built my database up. And Stoney and I had a conversation in a hunting field in one November about just some frustrations I was having with my corporate job, if you would, and had got my database built up enough, and went full-time in 2010. And we've been here for 4 or 5 years? Six?
6 in November.
Yeah, okay, 6 in November, yeah. So I grew up in Bowling Green, Virginia in Caroline County, so that's the backstory there.
All right. Your turn.
It's my turn. All right, Stoney Marshall. I grew up in Cartersville, Virginia as well. I have been 20 years in the business, and let's see, what else was I supposed to say? Oh, before that, I worked on a carpentry crew framing houses for almost 5 years. So I interned while I was in college at a real estate company, went to work there right out of college, part-time for 1.5 years, saved up enough money, took the leap, and haven't looked back. So basically 18.5 years full-time.
Interesting Cartersville connection. I didn't know we were gonna have
There's a lot of connection there.
Did y'all know? I mean, what's the age difference between you two guys? Did y'all know each other back in the Cartersville metropolitan area?
I mean, not really. So Cory's father and I do a fair amount of work together. And first time I met his dad, I got a truck stuck in his grandfather's field. I buried it. Yeah, that was funny. Andy's back there somewhere. She may remember that. I think they were going to church. I didn't really know Cory growing up because there's a pretty good age difference. How old are you?
30.
30. So there's 12 years difference in us.
I got you.
Yep.
Very good. So then the story. So you started. What company, Stoney, did you start with?
Coldwell Banker, do realty in Ashland.
In Ashland. Okay.
Yep.
And so why don't you start? Just sort of tell us how your business sort of evolved there, and then were you looking? I know that obviously I know you had a lot of conversations with Mike and Todd. How did it all wind up that you got to Hometown?
I mean, naturally, when you're doing well in the business and growing, a lot of brokerages are calling on you. Peyton and I flirted around with some other companies, trying to figure out how to grow our team. The company we came from, the very good for us in growing our business and giving us time not to have a lot of pressure and to really grow into who we wanted to be as agents. But it got to a point to where there wasn't a whole lot of training left to be had there. I kind of felt like we had outgrown the company we were with at the time and needed to be pushed more. We were kind of the top dogs for a long time, and I really wanted to get into a company that pushed me more and had a lot of bigger thinkers, more team-centric, and had a different feel to it. Do Realty was very like a family. You know, I basically grew up there. I was 21 years old when I walked in the door. And for us, we just needed to get to a similar atmosphere, not really a corporate style real estate like some of the larger franchises felt to us. Obviously, I had talked to Mike and Todd in years previous. And then I just called it. I called Mike up or Todd, I can't remember who I called, and said I wanted to talk again about possibly making a switch, and y'all had just restructured things for teams. So it was good timing for that. That was part of the frustration Peyton and I had. As teams are evolving, companies weren't really behind the commission structure and giving a break for the team leader, and the team really taking on a lot of the responsibility that traditional brokerage had helped agents with in the past. Just felt like the system was broken at the time.
Right.
And y'all were forward thinking on it, and it was attractive. We're heavy in the rural markets. Hometown Realty kind of has that feel to it to me as well. And I like that reach and not being tied to a national franchise, because frankly, I don't see a lot of value in it for myself in the way I do things.
So you guys, Peyton, when you started, I think you said this before, but you guys, when you started, you were right on the team from the get-go. What year was it?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. I started in 2005 as a part-time agent. Stoney and I met there.
Okay.
We were kind of the younger guys. There was an office there, a lot of older folks and things like that, and we became friends.
Okay.
I would cover for him when he was on vacation. He'd cover for me, kind of thing. And then we decided to join forces around 2010. I
Okay.
believe it was 2010, 2011. We think we don't really remember exactly. Yeah. So that's how
Like,
that.
the team was together when you made the transition here.
The team was together when we made the transition over here. Him and I had lengthy discussions about that, just to kind of piggyback off of what he was saying there. It came down to, you know, you want to be the big fish in the small pond, or do you want to go and push yourself and try to grow a little bit? And nothing against the previous company there, a lot of good resources there. But anything we were doing team-wise, we had to go outside to get. We had to go reach for it, look for it, and try to get it and find it. Where we knew y'all had quite a few teams over here that were already set up and thought could be some good resources there. And structure-wise, I mean, franchise fees were killing us, and Stoney was, I mean, ripping it. You know, #1 coal banker agent in the state for quite a few years there with it, and that's competing against some heavy hitters in Northern Virginia at the time. But you know, you start to ask yourself after a while, especially with the age of the internet and some of that, you know, what are you paying for with that as well?
Because the franchise fee never goes away.
Never goes away.
No matter what the split graduation is, that stays.
That's right. It always stayed there. So that's how that shook out. Yep.
Well, Cartersville, Cory, what about your story? So where were you before, and how did you wind up at Hometown?
So I started out at Do Realty, thanks to Stoney, and I don't know, it just didn't really mesh very well for me. And so I left there, and through a friend of a friend, I knew Lummy Jones, who was the broker of Napier. And so I joined up with them, and felt like I got a lot of really, really good opportunities there. But again, kind of got into, I was in the top couple every single year. And there were absolutely no teams at that time when I was there. There might have been one. And so I really didn't know where to go next or who to learn from. And so I really have to pass that back to Stoney, because he's the one that got me in here at Hometown. And I ended up having my broker class, I'm trying to think, that would have been with Cindy, and we had a conversation. Stoney kind of lined things up from there, and yeah, just never really looked back. Still know a lot of those folks really well, and we're still friends. But yeah, and I think another portion of that is I wanted to expand to some of these rural markets. I wanted to pick up different multiple listing services, and I didn't really have that ability there, and I was paying a franchise fee, so just kind of piggybacking on that.
Since you've been here, and obviously you knew, like it sounds like being the big fish in the small pond is a theme with the team as well as you, as Cory. But then once you got here, what are some of the other things maybe you didn't know that you found that have been beneficial to you, that make you happy, that make it fun to be here? You know, both as business success as well as just being comfortable and having a good time. What are some of those things that you found since you've been here? Just toss up question for me.
I mean, for me, it's a transparency of people. Like, anybody will tell you their secrets if you're willing to sit down with them and really talk with them and engage with them. And I mean, that's not normal in this business. At least I haven't seen that. So I think that was a big selling.
What does that mean? Like, because I've never worked anywhere else. I've been here for 20, how many years, Mike? You're good, 28 years? Never worked at another real estate company, and I've always felt like one of the cool things for me, because I didn't have any idea what I was doing. And I could always go to people, whether back in the day, whether it was Mike or Todd or Rodney, or remember like Cindy Blake was in that office over there across from Lee Davis High School, and you know, that just was natural to me. But what is it? How is it? Like, people literally like don't help you at all? I mean, how does that work in places?
I mean, there are definitely several agents where I worked that would not help. I mean, not at all. You'd go and ask a question and they point you back to the broker, even though they were probably the best person to answer that question.
And do they do that because that's like a trade? You think it's like they got some trade secrets and you're competing with them, or you think it was just the way they were?
I don't know. I guess it
Different culture.
Maybe.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely, hometown's very giving with information. And it's such a broad, there's so many people here. I mean, I use it. I mean, it's something simple as going into a listing agreement and they're like, hey, how do I fix this? Well, I don't really know anybody, but give me 10 minutes. You send out an email to hometown, everybody shares, but it also goes down to when you're learning as a new agent or team leader. I mean, I've stepped in, talked with Tommy, need some help or guidance. Everybody's very sharing with the information. And I just don't think you can find that, but there are so many people here to draw from. If you're at a smaller company, sometimes they just don't have the experience to help you anyway.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would say resources and culture as well. I mean, we're been in the business for a while, and I know sometimes too, some of our managers and brokers, might seem like we would say, leave us the heck alone, we want to go sell, and don't bother us with all these trainings and stuff. But if you want to learn, it's there. It's there for you to take advantage of. If you're not being successful here, that's on you. I mean, it's there. There's hometown universities, there's all kinds of trainings, there's contract classes, there's all those things. Got a contract question, I can get Rodney on the phone about a contract question, which we do occasionally. Or just being around other big thinkers. And
you made Mike so happy. Look over there. He told me this morning, he called me, and he said he had a meeting with some agents, and he said, I've changed my approach today. He goes, today, I'm giving them the talk. It's like, in the dating situation, it's not you, it's me. He said, today the new approach, it's not me, it's you. The opportunities are out there. You got to take advantage.
They're there. Then the culture of it's kind of like one big family over here. I mean, we were welcomed with open arms. And I mean, look, if you want to go take advantage of crab trips and fishing trips and golf and stuff, you can go do that. If that's not your cup of tea, so be it. You want to go do happy hours or whatever. Now, obviously, if you go do all those things and do something every day, you're probably not spending a whole lot of time trying to sell real estate or prospecting, right? But you need to have that balance there as well. But it's there if you need it. So
that's good.
So for me, part of the going on the culture side, I think something we needed. For me, part of what was missing is I was in that company before for so long, and there was a big age difference in the people.
Yeah.
And in our careers, unfortunately, or at least for me, I spend more time working than I do with my own family. So I want to be around people that I related to
Mhm.
and spent time with and did more things socially. And the calendar that Hometown puts together with the crab trip, the golfing, the happy hours, that was real important to me to be able to be involved in other stuff outside of just go to the office, go home. Because I just really didn't relate to the people anymore, and I needed some more. My life was starting to slow down. I have 3 children, they were aging a little bit, and I felt like I was gonna have a little bit more time in my life to take advantage of some of those things, and we just didn't have a whole lot of that to offer where I
Yeah.
came from. You know, they'd kind of gone, I felt like they'd been through that phase of their careers and paths there that it just wasn't something that was as important anymore, or it wasn't. You know, it's hard on a brokerage if the agents are not participating. It's hard to stay motivated to keep doing things. So that was a big attraction for me.
Are there things that you guys would say that you've done differently? Did you change anything? Maybe not right away, but even over the time that you've been here, are you doing things differently for whatever, whether it be the culture, whether it be something you learned or anything like that going on, or you basically do the same thing, just in a different environment?
I don't know if we do anything that
That's a
was.
good question. Yeah, I don't think we do anything.
We were pretty perfect when we got
Yeah, I don't think the motivation is lacking for Stoney and I to pick up the phone, get some listings, get some buyer appointments set, get some things going there with that. I mean, as we've said, I've seen a lot of trainings, there's no secret sauce.
Yeah.
We show up and do it, but I
But
don't think there's anything different really. But there's resources that are there that
Yeah,
help.
I think what Stoney said about talking to people and maybe being able to refine a few of the things, like you've done client parties and you've done all these things in the past, but maybe then you have an example of if say Tommy, who's sitting right here, does something, then you could sort of talk to him about it or see a little bit of that and maybe say, hey, that was a pretty good idea, why don't we tweak our thing, just a small turn.
Yeah, I do remember when we got over here, our listing presentations, we were kind of revamping some of that, reached out to Ben and some others and you as well, Dean, there to maybe kind of tighten that up a little bit.
Yeah.
That kind of, like just having those resources there to do that. I mean, and I've said before, like we're fans of what Tommy's team's doing, what Ben's doing, what you guys are doing. It's nice that y'all are able to kind of say, hey, here's how we do it. And we're like, the light bulb kind of goes off. Hey, that's a good idea. We should implement that.
Yeah. Corey, how about you? Anything that you can tweak or change? And you're in sort of you have a team now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how many people in your team?
3 of us total.
Okay. And when you got here though, no team, it was just
Right.
you. So how did you sort of get that in your mind to do that? And then who did you talk to about that? And again, how did you change anything else?
I mean, Stoney's been a big influence in a lot of what I've done, so I'll give him kudos to that.
Barnesville connection.
I call him a lot, I talk to him a lot about different things that I'm going through, but I also think talking to a lot of other people in the room and not in the room here at Hometown has really, really been beneficial to me and to my business. I don't know if there's like one thing that I've 360, but I think there are a lot of little things that I've tightened up that I've seen other people do, and I'm like, dang, that was really, really smart. I wish I had done that in this scenario or that scenario. So a lot of little things for me that I picked up on. So
This may be a dangerous question, but what do we not have here? What's missing?
oh well, I mean, I think every time I like
You guys are supposed to say absolutely nothing.
Well,
No, I'm just
so-
kidding. No, really. What's missing?
So I think every time that I have like something where I'm like, oh, I wish Hometown had, I go back through the calendar and I'm like, no, you're not involved with this or that, and you're not making those connections with people that you need to be making. So at the end of the day, like I get a calendar every month, like if I'm not meeting the people that I need to meet or not being involved, it's only me to blame for it. So. And I really like the Hometown U stuff and being able to look at a lot of that on YouTube. It's really, really beneficial when I don't have, because Wednesdays are kind of my busy day. And so if I can go back and watch somebody that I'm like, yeah, they're crushing it, they're number one, year after year, I'm gonna go back and see what I can catch.
So.
That's good.
I wouldn't say anything's missing. I mean, if we took advantage of everything in the company, then I could tell you if there was something missing, but we
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
You know, that's just kind of who we are, or who I am. So.
Okay. Well, that's good. So let's switch it over sort of as all having a good amount of experience in the business and agents here with a variety of experience. What would you say, and I think Stoney said there's no secret sauce, but in order to be successful, is it people have to have special skills? Do they have to have some form of privilege as they come into the business? Or is it more of a just commitment and effort kind of thing? Or maybe something else? What would you say?
My answer is going to be commitment and effort.
Okay.
That's it. Get out
Peyton, how
and what
about
you
you?
put in it.
I think it's commitment and effort as well. I mean, Stoney and I don't come from a, well-to-do upbringings and things like that, probably lower middle class kind of things, lunch pail type mentality. If you get out there and you grind and you show folks you can do it, now yes, you need to have some people skills. You need to be able to talk, you need to be able to speak like you're educated, explain contracts and
Yeah.
follow up and do those kind of things, but I think it's 100% you get out what you put in.
But I'm sure these other brokerages you were talking to said they had the greatest website and they get all sorts of leads from their websites and stuff. So you don't think it's website leads and the brokerage website is the answer? You think it's
We're not flashy, if y'all haven't noticed. So we've never kind of subscribed to that way. We've definitely flirted with it, right? It's a shiny object. Everybody says it works great. You're drawn to it, but we always come back to just do the work. You know, get on the phones, whatever your system of prospecting is. I learned early on lead conversion was critical. Make a listing more than just a listing. Actually follow up with the people, follow through. It's pretty simple principles for us. And I really think that's all it takes. Now, you got to get out and meet people and know people and build up a center of influence to talk to. But once you get there, it should kind of just build on itself.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that too, we've got sort of folks threw up debate about that, right? Of hey, this is going to be
technology
this,
is the greatest.
their technology is
and all
this,
the
we get you on
technologies.
websites and all that, and this team model is this. And I don't mind saying names. I mean, everybody's probably read the Millionaire Real Estate Agent before. I'm sure a lot of you guys have. And that Keller Williams model there is one you could build off of, but the model here from a team structure struck a little bit better chords with Stoney and I, where we could kind of be free to go do what we wanted to do as individual agents and pull everything together versus where you got one guy at the top and a bunch of, maybe junior agents, whatever you want to call it, or just buyer's agents strictly only, there where I think in today's market, some of them will probably struggle a little bit right now, just being only buyer's agent there, where here, it's you go do your thing and go do it.
Cory, anything along those lines?
I mean, for me, the biggest thing that I look at every day is my routine. And if I'm not structured out exactly how I want to be from the time I wake up in the morning to about midday, then I just don't get accomplished what I want to get accomplished. And I think the biggest book that taught me that was Atomic Habits. And just figuring out what my day needs to look like in order to make me more successful.
What does it look like? Would you share that with us? Like a good day. You don't have to tell us like today, but what about a great day? What is the plan from the time you get up till say lunchtime?
Oh, y'all might think I'm a little crazy. So Monday was my perfect day. I woke up around 3:45, went to the gym at 4:30. And I'm working out with the trainer a couple days a week just to kind of get things rocking and rolling back where they need to be. And then I take about an hour to myself and
What time is that?
I would say that's
7 o'clock.
normally about 6:30, something like that. And I take about an hour to myself. I eat my breakfast and I read, and that might be the Bible one day, it might be Atomic Habits, you know, whatever I'm reading at the time. And then I kind of get my day started, and it normally starts 8 o'clock on the dot for me. So.
Do you come into the office, or do you work from home, or a combination?
I, like, even all the way through COVID, was coming into the office every single day, and I might not be at the office at 8, but I'm definitely already making phone calls and doing stuff by 8 o'clock. And I always take a lunch for myself, just something that helps me reset and regroup, and I just see a big difference in the afternoons for me if I do that, so.
And are you on schedule in the afternoon, or you just sort of feel like you got most of the stuff done in the morning and that's for appointments and whatever might come up through the day?
So my calls and stuff are all knocked out between that 8 and 10 time frame. Don't hold me to that and like count me in the office, but by 10 o'clock I'm normally wrapped up with phone calls, and then I can focus on, okay, what are some of the most important items that need to be taken care of. And then a lot of times my afternoons are meetings, or I'm working on a project for tomorrow or something like that. So
Good.
yeah.
Since we're on that topic, what about you guys? What kind of routine or schedule, or is that a big part of your world and success, or how does it go for you guys?
Let me go first.
Yeah, well, you don't want to say the best for last. You go ahead.
Yeah, mine's, I mean, I've got 3 young children at home, so mine's typically 5 a.m. wake up call, get myself ready, showered, all that kind of stuff. Get coffee, all those kind of things, start getting the kids ready at 6 a.m. wake up call for them, help my wife get them ready while she gets ready and get them out the door at 6:45 or so every day. That way I'm all ready to roll to the office by 7:15, 7:30, depending on what we got going on. And definitely usually starting by 7:30. I'm more of a morning person there. I'm doing all of my proactive stuff then. I'm doing all my market analysis in the mornings, checking emails, responding, buyer consults, trying to, make some phone calls, get some appointments set and things like that in the morning. Cause I know later in the day, it's gonna be the reactive stuff of, hey, this, termite inspector can't open the lockbox, or blah, 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 blah. Those kind of things that come along. So, and usually trying to set the buyer appointments or listing appointments for the afternoon is what we try to do. Not all in inspections and things like that, but it doesn't always happen that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now the best for last. Here we go.
No, I said don't say the
Oh,
best for last.
okay.
Well, I don't know, my schedule's not, I'm kind of loose on my schedule. I do have some fairly solid disciplines. I've made a point in my career to be at home in the mornings with my children, to feed them breakfast, pack their lunch, get them on the school bus, take them to school, whatever it is. I like to be there pretty much every day to see them off for their day, because again, I spend most of my time working, not with my children. And then I try to be home every evening, somewhere between 5:30 and 6:30, to make sure I can cook dinner and enjoy dinner with them. And I'll probably start working again 8:30, 9 o'clock, catching up on emails. During the day, I might get to the office anywhere from 8:30 to 9:15, somewhere in that. I may go look at a few properties in the morning if I have to. It just depends on my day. I'm very reactionary and have been kind of stuck in a rut for the last 2 or 3 years, just due to, I guess, my client base at the time. But I mean, we have a little structure. We have Monday meetings. Tuesday we have some meetings we got to go through, and then kind of the rest of the week's off to whatever comes my way, and I typically don't work weekends. So
One thing that you've said to me several times when we've had conversations is that you just put your head down and go to work. Is that, do you think that's the key to what, I mean, some people have to have their schedule or whatever else. You pretty much, does that mean you just sort of get in there and then whatever you gotta do, you just get it done?
I just do it. Yeah, it's, when time allows, my brain power works. I might put something off if I'm not ready to get necessarily working on my business. great about that side of things, but I'm good at working in my business and
Yeah.
doing the things to generate income. You know, kind of, Dean, for me, it's always been a numbers game, right? Just the more opportunities you get, you know, the more times you try, the better the odds of success.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not perfect, but I try really hard to always follow up and do what I tell people I'm gonna do when I say I'm gonna do it.
And you guys work out of the office most every day. I mean, pretty much
I'm
every
pretty
day.
much at the office every day.
Well, one last question from me, then we'll open it up. So, Mike and I were talking about procrastination this morning. Is that the killer or one of the toxic things for agents? How do you avoid that? And have you ever had a problem with it where you had to really take drastic action? Let's go back to Cory with that one.
Which is something I'm dealing with a little bit right now. So for me, I really get in that rut of putting things off and not doing them, particularly phone calls that I don't want to make that are going to be confrontational. And I've noticed that about myself, so I've tried to, when something comes up, instead of thinking about it for 30 minutes or thinking about it for 3 days, I take a couple minutes, I think through my thoughts, maybe write down some stuff too, and I make the phone call, or I, you know, do whatever that is that needs to be done. And yeah, I mean, it's just a comfort thing. I think at this point, like, you want to be comfortable all the time, but it's not how it always goes. So, especially not in this business right now. So.
Well, watch this. How many of you share that thing where maybe you have some call, or maybe you don't get right on it, anybody else other than me? So, I mean, that's just it. And we just have to, obviously, you have to figure out a way to get yourself to do it. Ernie Chamberlain sat up here one time. Anybody remember that? He talked about that. He's like, you know, one of the biggest ahas in his business was like, you know, rather than just sit there and stew over it, and, you know, he's like, just do it. You know, I start with the toughest one, I think. Isn't that what he said? He like
Yeah, if
starts.
you don't want to call somebody, call them out.
Yeah, and whatever, if you have a list of several, take the toughest one and get that one out of the way first. That's interesting you said that, because yeah, Mike and I were just talking about that today, so I thought that. How about you guys? What about procrastination, and how do you combat that, or have you ever had to combat that? Maybe not with calls, but just anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think at some point, certain things, there's always procrastination, but I think it's about prioritizing the important things there too. Like, of course, I mean, a difficult phone call, it's kind of gotten through the years of, let's just get this out of the way. Let's get it over with, get it done. You know, they're not gonna like the call and see how it goes, but just get it out of the way. Just makes the rest of your day a little relief off you, where you can then go focus on some other things that might be more income producing and revenue generated and things like that. So.
It's funny how sometimes you make those calls and it really isn't what you created in your mind. It's like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
I don't know. I mean, the biggest thing I probably procrastinate on is maybe more organization from a team level, business planning.
Like you said, working on your business.
Correct. I mean, I'm certainly not getting prepared for a listing appointment on Friday today. You know, I'm probably gonna wait till Thursday or Friday morning at 8:45, knock that thing out and go. But that also has to do with, you know, a lot of our information's already prepared before we even get to that point, right? So we can just grab it and go.
And experience.
And sometimes when you procrastinate, you gotta scramble a little bit, and you might get a little embarrassed because you're not quite ready for the appointment, or forget a lockbox when you drive an hour to list a house. That's always fun.
Somebody else listed
Because you wait till the
Yeah.
last minute, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely procrastinate from time to time.
I got you. Well, thank you. All right, how about questions from you guys for the expert panel? Fire away.
Cory had mentioned those tiny, small tweaks that you made over time that made very large impacts on your business. So I was just curious if all of you could maybe share one or two small tweaks that you've made that have made a big difference in whether it's your day-to-day, whether it's your overall structure, what have you, just something that's been a small change that someone who's 3 years in the business could potentially learn from and change.
For me, probably that time blocking, and like, it just has made a world of difference in how I do things and how I'm able to structure my day.
I think if there's one for me, Mike brought up when we first got over here, the book, The 12-Week Year. A really good one there to like, a lot of agents kind of start off January, February, but you should probably start sooner than that for the following year, just so everybody is clear on that. But start off January, February, and by March, hey, maybe there's no paychecks or no prospects there. Well, it's not too late. Same thing with New Year's resolutions and things like that. I mean, that's just an example of being around some other people and taking some things there. You can block that off into quarters and push that through. And okay, well, I got to make up for lost time here that I didn't get in the first quarter. I got to have a blowout second quarter to catch back up. I mean, that's one little tweak that I think we've had there, and then stuff with the listing presentation that I mentioned previously.
Can I add one thing to mine?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm not all the way through it yet, but Essentialism, it's a book. It is changing my like whole outlook on how I do things. One of the big parts of it is saying no. And as a real estate agent, it's pretty hard to say no when you've got a kid.
Boundaries, it's such
Yep.
a hard lesson to learn.
It's tough. And this year I wanted to play a lot more golf. And so I've said no to some stuff that probably could have made me a considerable amount of money. But I mean, at some point, like my happiness is part of that too. So that is a killer book though. It'll hurt your feelings.
I think I just looked it up. Greg McCown. Greg, G-R-E-G, first name, McCown, M-C-K-E-O-W-N is the author of that book. $10.99 on Amazon.
Well worth it.
Thank you. Mike?
Yeah, is playing more golf something that's taught here at the Twin Cities?
I'd like for it to be.
All the highly successful agents do it.
It's part of the culture.
I
It's
got
part of the
another
culture.
one. Let's pretend somebody around you, somebody in your office, somebody, you know, that you're dealing with, that agents are knocked off track, you know? So what advice do you give yourself when things just ain't going right, you know? Like everybody's got a little something. When things aren't going right, you gotta get back on track. What's the advice you give an agent? Because I think a lot of people have been buyer agents too much and have been focusing on buyers too much. And now, I'm just saying, if you ain't listening, you're stuck. So what's the advice that you give somebody that might need a rudder?
Set up. I mean, I'm very goal oriented, whether it's, you know, accomplishing things on the day that I have written on my list, or for the quarter, or for the year. But I think motivating you day to day is having little wins, whatever those may be. You know, if it's I want to make 2 prospecting calls, or I want to go preview a property, or I want to do some research to try to get some new listings, or I need to check some business planning off my list, I want to sign up for a class, whatever it is. I think little wins add up over a day and can help you get out of a rut instead of fixating on the thing that's bringing you down or made it difficult. Just find things that make you feel positive and can keep going. Even like Cory, for me, going to the gym is important and I feel better. And part of my rut is I don't go to the gym like I used to. And it was something I scheduled out and put on my calendar, and I stuck to it. And those are, every time I go, I feel better. So that's a little win for me if I can just get there one more day this week, you know, versus last week. That helps my thinking, my mindset changes with those little wins.
I would say getting an accountability partner, whether it's a formal teammate, or whether it's just another agent in your office there. I mean, Stoney and I are pretty good about it. I mean, you know, there's days where, you know, you just get your rear end kicked, you know, hey, this guy chewed me out, or he said he wasn't selling it for that, or this buyer hung up on me, or they're pissed off at me, or whatever. There's days, right? Yeah. Where we kind of got to talk each other off the ledge, but there's also with that, and that's where an accountability partner comes in. Hey, it's gonna be all right, you know, we're gonna get it tomorrow. We're gonna go make up that tomorrow. But also in that same, there's motivation there. I mean, Stoney will come in there sometimes, hey man, I sold 3 houses today. I'm like, Jesus, all right, I gotta get going here because I gotta catch up with him. Or it pushes you a little bit to say, hey, I gotta get a little better there with that and do it, you know, what'd you do, how'd you do that, or whatever. Getting that accountability partner just around it, and plenty of the speakers and people out there will tell you, the people you surround yourself with is probably gonna be what you're gonna be, or your future may look like there. So surround yourself with some good people who maybe you see some good qualities in, or maybe aspire to be as well.
My bad things normally happen in threes, and yeah, so when that happens, I'm in a pretty deep rut. For me, and my mom can probably attest to this, since she works with me every day. I have like 10-minute freak out about it, really get good and pissed off about it, and then I just kind of let it go. And same as Peyton, like, you are who you hang out with, and you know, as you build and grow, like, you've got to figure out who those people are that you want around you, and that has been killer for me when I've had those bad days. You know, just surrounding myself with good folks and saying no to the folks that don't bring it. So
That's what I was gonna say. The greatest part about being in real estate is you can kind of copy and paste from other people the things you really like, and you can also figure out what other people are doing. You say, I don't like that, or I don't agree with that, and you can kind of morph it into your own way of doing real estate. But the advantage of being with 350 agents, you get to see and experience how other people do it, and then you can kind of pick and choose whether you like it or don't like it.
And how they react to it too. I mean, how their mindset is about things too.
And there's more, from what I've heard, there's more openness here where people actually kind of share that stuff versus just a closed door. And this is how I've been doing business for 20 years and kind of stay out of my office. There's a little bit more sharing. Like, even when you were asking, I was thinking in my listing presentation, I now have a list of my recommended contractors, where I used to just bring business cards, but it's like, oh, I learned somebody actually printed that in their CMA. It's like, well, duh, that's done. Like, I can easily do that, but like, where else do you ever see somebody else's listing presentations? Nobody really shares that, unless it's within the company. So.
What other questions? Ben?
I guess a month ago, we did a class on prospecting, and one of the things we talked about was call blocks. So obviously you guys all have your respective centers of influence, spheres of influence, whatever you call it. How often are you actually sit down at your desk and put a headset on, or pick your phone up and actually make proactive calls to your COI?
You really want me to answer that?
Well, I mean, like, I'm asking because I know, like, you know, like Big Dean probably 20 years ago used to do it every day. Today, he doesn't do it as often.
I don't do it at all. You know, my prospecting.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
that's the honest answer. I don't sit down and make prospecting calls.
Did you used to?
Early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did
I got really good at get a few listings, and then I just built from there.
Right.
Right? Just keep talking to those people, but I don't like making those calls. But if I have a purpose, right? So I do a lot of builder business. You're like, I want this piece of land over here. Go find it. No problem. I'll call that person every day. Doesn't bother me a lick. But if I just had to start calling random people out of the phone book, or people I sold a house to 15 years ago, like, oh man, I'm not doing
Not
that.
your stuff, yeah.
Yeah, that one doesn't work for me.
Yeah, not very frequently either. I mean, a lot when I was younger in the business and doing it, but we're firm believers if you build that database up properly,
Yeah.
and you do the business the right way, you know, some of the referrals should start coming to you. But as far as cold calling, prospecting, very,
Yeah, just
very
I'm not talking about cold calling prospect. I mean, even like you calling your builders.
Talking to your database, how often you talk to your database?
I mean,
That's all I do.
all the time, but it's on different business things. But when you're talking to them, don't get me wrong, if they say, hey, we talked to somebody who might want to sell their house, we're asking the next question of, how do we get in touch with them, right? And do that, or can you put in a good word for me, or whatever. But we're talking to them all the time, and just, I think just that interaction and that engaged or front of mind, they're thinking about you and doing that, and they're thinking about
When you
referring.
guys have the big event you do every year too, so there's.
Events.
So, yeah, a couple of things we're doing prospecting, right? You know, we have our normal mailing stuff, we have our emailing stuff, we have our 3 client events a year type of business.
Popeyes.
But one thing that he and I learned from our previous brokerage, told us early on, like, if you can get 5 really good people, raving fans, whatever you want to call them, in your center of influence, you can build your entire career off of those people, okay? And I can probably name mine that have built our entire business. Peyton's got his, Cory's probably got his. They're just guys that are always active, always thinking about you, constantly referring business. And it certainly can be on a different scale, but some of these guys we might do 15 or 20 deals a year with. Well, if you get 15 or 20 listings and you're good at converting leads off those listings, you're putting people back into your database that you're having 3 client parties a year with. You may see them there, talk to them, treat them right, do your pop buys to them. That's how we've approached prospecting versus, calling 10 people a day from our database.
Right.
And I found a lot of value that if you're a new agent back there 3 years in, find you 5 really good people and show them a lot of love and work really hard for them and just give it some time and it will grow into something really great.
Yeah, piggyback off that, I think some people think you gotta go meet and talk to 200 people, 250 people, and they gotta all be in your database and all that. Well, I would say to that, sometimes you spread yourself too thin.
Right.
It might be better to get 5 to 10 to 15 really good, deep relationships that do what Stoney just said there.
Do you ever find it hard to, like, if you think of your 5 raving fans, Stoney or Peyton, like, do you ever find it hard to balance, like, are you really good friends with them, or are you just professional connections?
I certainly spend a ton of time with my guys just because it's pretty much daily. I'm talking to most of them for our construction side of business. So we have a pretty deep relationship, I feel, but I don't normally hang out with a lot of my clients on the weekend, right? And there's got to be a little bit of separation.
Sure.
Not saying I wouldn't, not saying I didn't, but at this point in my life with my children, it's a lot of my time's focused on them or something for myself just to kind of disconnect.
That's great.
And a lot of them were friends before and grew into, strong business relationships. And it can go either way.
Larry, you had a question?
I was thinking, as you guys were talking, it sounds like y'all kind of mastered the art of picking low-hanging fruit. And I was wondering if y'all could speak on that a little bit, right? Like, you get an opportunity. I think some of us, especially if you're newer, you get really excited about the opportunity. You give everything you have to that opportunity, but sometimes your brain doesn't kick in that this is a segue to more opportunities if I ask the right questions, serve the right way. Can y'all speak on that a little bit? Because it sounds like that's where a lot of business comes from.
I mean, he and I used to joke, we have a coffee can guy that told me he was gonna pay for this $20,000 piece of land in Cartersville. And I was like, how you gonna pay for it? He said, jingle, jingle, it's in my coffee can. I was like, hey, this guy's a riot, call him up. I don't know how many things we've sold to him, for him, or referred from him, but we've never been driven by the outcome, being the commission amount per deal, because we feel every person that we meet knows 100 people. They may hit the lottery one day. They may have a rich uncle or aunt, and they may own a farm somewhere that we want to sell. So we treat all the people with the same level of respect and serve them the same way. And we believe it kind of comes back so we don't have to hit 10 phone calls a day to find new business because, they return return the favor and referrals, man. That's my belief.
Yeah, no, I
They
can,
have
and that,
different
I mean,
thoughts.
that guy bought a $18,000 lot from us, and I think he referred us 5 or 6 different things over the years after that of, well, almost, over $500,000 sale and
Land
a couple
sale,
other things
houses.
and all kind of things like that. So I think to get on to there, yeah, it's, I think some agents need to open their eyes that a listing should be more than just a listing. Okay, you ought to be able to get that listing and then go capture some other buyers off of that listing, right? And maybe go sell their house for them on that too, if you know what to say, how to talk to them on the phone and treat them with respect and all that. And they may be working with somebody else or whatever, but if you say the right things or whatever, and they're on the fence about, they're not calling me back or whatever, they might lean your way and come to you there. And You gotta open the eyes and say, that's gotta be more than just an opportunity of just a listing there. You gotta be able to capture some other stuff off of it as well.
See the greater opportunity.
That's it.
We want a career-long client, not one deal, right?
We want a client, not a deal. Right?
There you go. I'd rather work really hard at that relationship than work really hard at prospecting every day, searching for new business.
Yeah, that's great. That's a solid point.
Cory?
I've got a question back here. I'm a new, so this is probably a stupid question, but I see you guys, Peyton and Stoney, do a lot of like co-listings. And I'm wondering, is there an advantage to that? What's the reason for that? Or is it just like 2 phone numbers for potential agents to call you on?
That's how our team is set up.
Okay.
That's basically it.
Okay, it's a stupid question.
Not a stupid
No,
question.
not at all. Not at all.
Cory and I co-list stuff too.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
it just depends on the opportunity and how it's structured on the front end.
And really, who's the lead agent on it, that's kind of what we do, put that first phone number there. Cool. Direct agents to that.
Anybody else with a question? All right, again, thank you guys. Y'all talked about sharing, and I mean, I think this has been great, a lot of awesome ideas. Mike?
Are either of y'all or any of y'all trying to grow your teams now? Just a question, since you got folks here in the room, they might wanna, I don't know, sitting up there, that'd be a good time to say something.
Always
Speaking of
listening.
taking advantage of
Always listening.
opportunities.
Yes, always listening to look for opportunities to help grow somebody else's business and help them achieve their best.
Anyway, thank you guys a ton for spending your time with us. And if anybody is interested in the teams, then obviously you can talk to them separately, or maybe right after this, you can sign up. That's very good. So next week we have, I think it's objection handling, is that right?
Yeah.
Objection handling with Adrian Spears and Blakely. So hopefully be able to make that, and have a great week. Thanks for being here.
So that's-